That's it. That's seriously it. This is my review for Age of Ultron, Marvel's The Avengers, Part 2. If you don't want any spoilers, stop now or hit the mute button and just stare at my pretty face. So here's the thing. I know the title says The Age of Ultron sucks. It doesn't suck in terms of, it's not like a Plan 9 from outer space or like a Star Wars Phantom Menace. It's just a major disappointment compared to the first Avengers. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons as to why that's the case. The first reason is there are too many characters in this film. One of the things that worked for the first Avengers is you had some of the people taken out of commission right away. Dr. Selvig, Hawkeye. I know Jeremy Renner was kind of pissed that he ended up being a baggage carrier for Loki during the first Avengers film. The problem is there are so many people in these films that you don't have any time for character development. You have so many great actors and actresses in this film. Most of these people can carry a franchise by themselves. Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is one of the most interesting people we have in the Marvel Universe, in my opinion. And she just spends a lot of this film wasted. She ends up locked up in a cage as a damsel in distress. They couldn't have thought of something better for her to do? I guess that's the problem when you have these big ensemble cast films. But there are people that didn't have to be in it. You didn't have to bring back Nick Fury. You didn't have to bring in the Maximoff twins. And again, some of these actors and actresses, they're so good. They're wasted in these tiny little roles that are just there to be there. I don't understand why you had to have Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in this film. I don't think you did. It kind of muddled a storyline that just didn't really resonate with me. The thing that worked with the first Avengers film so much is that you had this big ensemble cast of people, but they all worked for the same kind of common goal, and their backstories didn't really matter as much. But when you get into things like this film does, like everyone's deepest fear and kind of their psychological worries and things like that, it creates a problem because we need to know more. There's a sequence where you kind of look into Thor's mind, and it just doesn't work. It distracts from the film, in my opinion. I think the film was kind of a mess in the sense that you had too many characters that were underdeveloped. Number 2, imaginary stakes. So the thing is, we all know Civil War is coming. That's not really a spoiler. And, you know, bits and pieces of what's going to happen were thrown in as sort of like teasers in this film. The problem is, because we know that, we don't really feel any fear for our characters. At least I didn't. Like, yeah, obviously, you know, things do happen without revealing too much, but the stakes just aren't that high. When you read the comic book arc of Age of Ultron, you really think that, wow, this world could end, and wow, our characters are in deep shit. The reality is, I don't get any of that from this film. It's kind of a rehashing of how the Avengers had to come together once they were splintered apart, which we kind of covered in the first film. The thing is, this is a crisis entirely manufactured by the Avengers themselves. Did we really think that they wouldn't work it out in the end? I didn't feel like our characters were in any real danger. I didn't feel like there was anything that was going to happen in this film that would shatter the Marvel Universe. One of the things I liked so much about Winter Soldier is that I really genuinely feared for Captain America's life. Even though we knew there were other films coming, like, I didn't know what they would do. Because if you've read some of the Marvel comics, you understand that, especially for Captain America, ultimately, this was just a filler film to get us to Civil War. And you know what? I gotta be honest. We give other filmmakers shit for just like dialing it in, and I think to a certain degree that they sort of dialed it in on this. The film doesn't completely suck, and I'll talk about why in a minute, but compared to the first film, it was a tremendous disappointment, and compared to things like The Winter Soldier, which I thought was just an amazing Marvel film. Number 3, character consistency. So all the sort of lessons that these characters seem to learn and the things that shook them up in the first place don't really resonate in this film. I don't really understand. So one of the biggest themes in The Winter Soldier was like a world in which people can be preemptively dealt with. What Tony Stark has done here is he's basically done the same thing that Hydra tried to do, eliminate potential threats before they come up. You'd think someone as smart as Stark would kind of think, well, this isn't a good idea. It's not like a new thing to think that AI might go awry. You think somebody as smart as Tony Stark might have thought, if I create something like this, what could happen? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's almost like these people were not profoundly affected by what Hydra almost did. Another thing is you look at someone like Black Widow. You know, they kind of teased a romance in The Winter Soldier with Captain America a little bit, but you knew that wasn't going to work out. And in this one, like, suddenly Black Widow and Hulk are a thing. And it just kind of happened. Again, in a big ensemble cast like this, you don't have time to get into like how that might have gone down. And it's just I don't know, even though it is a comic book movie, it kind of suspends belief too drastically. I can't really get on with it because they it just seemed out of nowhere, and I was just like, it's almost like the screenwriter just decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna throw this in there because we have to have a way to calm down the Hulk. The biggest inconsistencies for me are, the character of Tony Stark and the character of Captain America. They just don't seem to have carried things over from previous films, things that might have impacted and affected them on an emotional level, and that's very, very disappointing to me. And that's a screenwriting problem. The actors are fantastic in these films, but I think Age of Ultron was incredibly shallow in the way of character consistency and continued development. And of course, some of that is just because it's a huge ensemble film, but there's another reason. Number 4, visual emphasis. Here's the thing, guys, it's 2015. We're not super, super impressed by how many awesome CGI things you can throw in a film anymore. I don't care how many robots the Avengers can take on. And, that's interesting and that's cool. But if you look at the first Avengers film, that last battle, as big as it wasn't for like ever. You know, there was more. There were things in that film that I, as a viewer, as a scrawny 20-something-year-old, could relate to. I think Age of Ultron completely lost sight of that. I think Age of Ultron wanted to impress us with huge visual displays and make us go, "Oh wow, dude, that's so sick." The problem is when you have such a huge emphasis on visuals at the expense of character development. I wonder how that's worked out for other films.
Jar Jar is a key to all this.
Number 5, I found Ultron to be a really unoriginal villain. Before you rage out in the comment section and call for my head, just hear me out for a minute. So, Ultron is played by James Spader, the voice of Ultron. James Spader is brilliant. I'm a huge fan. I've loved all his work in the past. I loved him as Robert California in The Office. I love him as Raymond Reddington in The Blacklist. The problem is Ultron was basically Raymond Reddington, except for a robot. I don't know, down to the things he said, how he said it, this doesn't go on James Spader. This is the writing. Basically, it's like they took Raymond Reddington from The Blacklist and crammed him in a robot suit. And then just, got rid of all his compassion. I don't know, I felt like Marvel pretty much dialed it in on this one. I would have much preferred us just, forego this and go straight into Civil War and, explain some stuff about the conflicts between Iron Man and Captain America, and so we can get on to Infinity War. And that's really disappointing because Marvel, up to this point, has done a really good job at giving us films that, yeah, they may impress us visually, and yeah, that they may kind of just appeal to the geekiness in us. Obviously, I'm a massive geek. Look at the name of my channel. But ultimately, I think the reason why a lot of these Marvel films work so well is because we get to, connect with the characters as human beings. Guardians of the Galaxy was awesome because I think a lot of us saw a little bit of ourselves in Peter Quill, or in Drax the Destroyer, or in Rocket. We are Groot. Gamora, I can really see myself in Gamora. Double entendre. Audiences want to relate to characters. We don't just want to be shown cool visual effects, awesome long fight scenes, and comic book action. The days of that being a huge novelty are gone. It's not that I didn't enjoy Ultron. I thought he was cool and fun and all sorts of stuff. It's just that it wasn't, I don't know, he wasn't an original character to me. I felt like they just borrowed him from something else. I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with Josh Brolin as Thanos in the upcoming Infinity series, if they ever get there. I'm also very interested to see, in the Civil War arc, who is going to be considered the bad guy, per se. What did you think? Did you think it was a great film? Do you completely disagree with me, or do you agree? Maybe the expectations were too high on my part as well. Maybe I thought this was going to be better than it was. I think that if you make something just to be a filler to get you, like as a bridge from one thing to another, then you probably shouldn't make it. Things need to exist beyond just their need to exist. Please go ahead and subscribe below. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you later.